Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for joining today's first live stream. It's 17th of August, 3 p.m. Moscow time, and this is my second news update, although live stream is first one. Early in the morning, I published a first news program, and several hundred members of our community uh, watched, listened to that video. In case you would not have time to stay uh, online throughout the duration of whole program, whole this program, then you can take a look at that first updater. I had quite a number of news there also, but of course during the live stream I will have more latest updates. And also a reminder, dear friends, that later on today at 9 p.m. Moscow time, in about 6 hours from now, I will launch final news updater for a day on Rumble channel only. Although after the program, I will publish that link to that stream on my Patreon and Boosted pages also, in case members, their supporters want to take a look at it. So without further delay, let's go through some news now. And well, I guess it makes sense if I will drop link to my Rumble channel right now in the chat, isn't it? Just in case you want to join our Rumble campaign. I mean, you can see link now in YouTube chat, and also on this video description box there is a link to the Rumble channel, and so you can subscribe there and join streams there whenever you. And okay, that's been said. Let's go for a news segment itself. I remind you, you can initiate conversation if you like during this streams. After the news segment, I will react on questions or the that I will receive through support platforms, that's Rumble, for example, or YouTube Boosty and Rumble Super Chat, basically. It's the same, right? Yesterday we had a big community chat, Sunday community chat. It was disastrous. Worst community chatter. It was community chat and fundraising and West funds. Since I launched these programs, not single donation throughout the stream. That was quite disappointing. My work last week was too bad, right? So I we will see. Anyways, let's go for news now, and I'll give you this update that Russian forces liberated in past 12 hours. Two more settlements in the zone of special military operations. So task forces, for example, reports based on defense ministers. The Russian military personnel liberated two settlements in the military district in the zone of operation. So, oh, okay, should be good now. Should be good now. My bad there, dear friends. It was my mistake. These technical issues with the sound should be good now. Should be good. So let's continue with Спасибо, Аль. You see, man, that's why big channels always have someone who is monitoring, audio engineers, video engineers, and stuff like that. But I'm not a big channel, so therefore, if family members spotted something good there, if not, then yeah. So two more settlements have been liberated in zone of special military operation in past 24 hours. Andreevska Opshina in the Donetsk People's Republic, and this is a major breakthrough, dear friends. I will explain in a minute why. And another one is Novosoloshina settlement in Zaporozhye region. So let's move now on the map and go step by step throughout the battlefield, basically in Kherson direction. No changes for understandable reasons, on the ground at least, because of sites are divided by Dnieper River. When it comes to Zaporozhye sector, Russian armed forces further improve their positions in Orekhov, which is, of course, a major stronghold still of Kiev regime in the central part of Zaporozhye sector, and the areas that Russian troops are in control now are getting bigger and bigger in southern eastern corner. So definitely battle for Orekhov is ongoing, and on the northern eastern flank of Zaporozhye sector, this settlement was liberated. Novosoloshino, that's the name of the village, which is tiny villager, but right now, of course, this is important developments. Every new liberated settlement brings Russian victory closer and closer, right? So therefore, it's all extremely important. And if you take a look at the map, you can see that Russian armed forces basically cut off yet another supply and support line that Kiev regime probably was trying to use in regards to Orekhov to support Orekhov garrison. And also, Russian troops are getting closer to Orekhov from the northern side also, right? Which is, from, I'm not military, but I can guess this has some major implications, military implications, right? When it comes to DPR, well, as I said, this settlement was liberated, Andreevsk Pshina, and this is a truly big deal. Many, even military experts, are sort of surprised to receive this information today about this village being liberated, this one here. And this is truly a big deal because Russian armed forces established physical control over one of the main supply and support lines that, for example, Dobropolye garrison of Kiev regime is using, right, to communicate with Kramatorsk, for example, right? And even though Dobropolye garrison of Kiev regime still has other ways, for example, through Svetogorovka, to receive reinforcement, resupply, and so on. Nevertheless, we cannot underestimate how important this breakthrough is for Russian armed forces, because Russian troops are now right behind the Kramatorsk on a southern western side of Kramatorsk, because that's where Kramatorsk is, right? Major stronghold of Kiev regime in DPR. And that's where Russian troops cut this main supply and support line. And it would not take long, I guess, before Russian troops will establish fire control over their main supply and support line that Kramatorsk garrison of Kiev regime has and connects this one, by the way, here, right? TO510 road. And maybe already Russian troops have established ground control over that line, which will make life for Kiev regime's garrison in Kramatorsk ever more difficult. And now, when we have this update, I can probably say with more confidence that possibly my long-standing prediction was correct, and Russian forces will not go for a frontal assault on this major and basically a last fortified area of Kiev regime in the DPR, Slavyansk, Kramatorsk, Drushkovka, but will encircle this stronghold and will go for assault from the western side, because all their fortifications that were built since 2014, since Western ruling class basically conducted that coup d'etat in Kiev and established a Nazi and terrorist regime. All the fortified areas that are in installations that were built since then were facing east, right? Because that's the direction that they were expecting Russian offensive. And now, first time since the beginning of special military operation, Russian troops are behind, in a rear of this major fortified area. So I guess in relatively short time, we might hear information about advances of the Russian armed forces from northern side throughout the border, alongside border of the DPR here, and at some point, maybe exactly on this TO510 road, somewhere in this area, these pincers might link, and the entire Drushkovka, Kramatorsk, Slavyansk fortified area might end up being encircled. Just saying, let's keep in mind, I'm not a military expert, I have no freaking knowledge about military stuff, right? But when I'm watching the map that's what comes to my mind, that probably this will make more sense, right? There is no point to assault this fortified area straight up front, right? Frontal assault will cause significant casualties. But if we encircle and take assault from their unprotected rear, well, that might be much more effective. And I think there is a probability that that's exactly what Russian military is going to do. When it comes to eastern side of Sloviansk-Kramatorsk, well, just yesterday, isn't it? I reported about this settlement, Persho-Marievka, that was liberated by Russian forces. And take a look at the map. Well, Russian troops are standing from the eastern side, right up front of the Kramatorsk itself. There is no settlement in between now, just fields. And some dig-outs in these fields and some trenches that Kiev regime forces have. And that's it. But still, I think DRGs might operate, of course, in these areas, but when it comes to major assault on Kramatorsk itself, Kramatorsk garnison itself, will make more sense if we will go for this assault from rear, from the western side, right? We will see. And also, of course, this progress of the Russian forces, liberation of Andreevka Opshina village, creates major difficulties for Kiev regime's garnison in Dobropolye, in which Russian armed forces on daily basis improving their positions. I remember, dear friends, that Russian troops are inside the Dobropolye, and the battle to liberate this city is already in the process. So some major developments there. And as I have said many times before, the France initiative is in the Russian hands all along the front line. And despite all the Western propaganda that they are turning the tide and they're doing this and that and all the rest of the garbage, in reality, they are turning nothing. By the way, Russian troops are in strict control of the situation on the battlefield, and they're neither in this universe, neither in any other freaking universes, Ukrainian Nazis and the fascists and their NATO backers going to be able to regain initiative. That's how it is, right? Okay, that being said, let's continue with some other news. And I want to also share with you, dear friends, this interesting news that the Russian military eliminated units, elite formations from Kiev regime's 47th and 68th brigades. There was an attempt on behalf of these Ukrainian Nazi formations to conduct counteroffensives in the Sumy region, in the area of Satki settlement. Russian militaries were monitoring the movement of enemy forces, and according to source of that news agency, literally everybody in these Nazi units were killed that were engaged in this assault operation. So let me give you details. An assault group from the 47th Separate Mechanized Brigade, Magura, of the Kiev regime's forces, considered an elite unit, was destroyed near the village of Satki in the Sumy region after failed counteroffensive. Russian security forces told the TASS news agency, and then quote here from an article, the enemy launched two unsuccessful counterattacks on our troops' positions near the village of Satki using assault formations from 47th Separate Mechanized Brigade and 68th Separate Airborne Brigade as a result of a combined fire from Russian forces, artillery, air force, everything. All Ukrainian nationalists were eliminated. All of them. So Russian militaries, I guess, did not leave no chances for these attacking forces from 68th and 47th brigades of Kiev regime to either retreat or survive. They all been neutralized right there and then. So I guess these brigades, 47th and 68th brigades, took some serious beating, by the way, in the Sumy region. And yet again, according to reports, they were sending some so-called elite formations from these brigades, right? Magura or whatever. Yeah, those units no longer exist. And the Kiev regime probably will have to send some, I don't know, man, additional couple of hundred forcibly mobilized elements to fulfill the ranks of those decimated units. Important development, I think, there. One that once again indicates that initiative on the battlefield is totally in Russian hands. Totally in Russian hands. The Novosti is also reporting that SVR, Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service, shared today with the public information that Western is preparing provocation, large-scale provocation against Russia in Latin America. Interesting, isn't it? So let me give you some details on that. So Western and the Ukrainian intelligence agencies are preparing large-scale provocation against Moscow in Latin America, Foreign Intelligence Service of the Russian Federation reported. And then, quote, plan is to accuse Russia of illegally supplying weapons to drug cartels and other organized crime groups in Venezuela, Colombia, and Mexico. Press release from SVR said the Foreign Intelligence Service reported that domestic weapons captured by the enemy during their operations are already being imported into their territory for this purpose. So Foreign Intelligence Service basically saying that weapons, Russian-made weapons that were captured on the battlefield, they're trophies basically by Kiev regime forces, was shipped already in these countries, and well, probably soon going to be used in some terrorist activity, right? And then they're going to blame Russia that Russia supplies drug cartels. I mean, really? I mean, who gives a damn anyways? And if anything, whoever has a working brains, by the way, on this planet knows perfectly well that it's a key regime, right? It's a key regime that sells weapons on the black market, including to drug cartels. And after all, you think, how come that there are so many freaking Colombians and the Brazilians and the Mexicans and God knows who else from Latin America that are fighting alongside the regime? You think that's some random development? No, these drug freaking cartels and all sorts of criminal groups are sending their staff in Ukraine to get some training, some knowledge of modern warfare, so that they will use this. Then they will use those of these mercenaries that will survive battlefield. If they will survive battlefield, they will use them as instructors, right? So that these drug cartels will have more capable armed groups. Everybody knows that, but still, you know, mindset of the Western ruling class, they think everybody in this world is a freaking stupid or idiot, right? And will buy any nonsense that they can come up with, including this type of nonsense that Russia is supplying weapons to drug cartels in Venezuela, man, and in Colombia. Really, man, we don't give a damn about either Venezuela or the Colombia, right? Fuck them all, literally, right? After Venezuelan people kneel to their white masters, after Colombian people just recently kneel to their white masters, I don't give a damn about them all, man. No one does, really. Fuck them all. Okay, that's what it is. But nevertheless, of course, they're gonna be this type of provocation, I guess. And I mean, whoever is already being zombified by Western propaganda, they will believe this crap. That, well, you see, Russia is shipping weapons to Mexican cartels or Colombian cartels. But whoever pays a bit more attention to details, nuances, whoever is informed, by the way, they know perfectly well this is all BS, by the way. And nothing more than that. But it is good that SVR, Foreign Intelligence Service, is conducting these preemptive steps, right? And when Western ruling class will go for this propaganda, well, you can always say, yeah, really. I mean, after all, like, Russians already tell us that you're gonna do this shit. So yeah, not working, right? Go and talk about this shit with your zombified ships. And unfortunately, vast majority of society in the West are exactly that. So freaking zombies, man, brain dead freaking zombies, and they will eat anything. If propaganda will tell them that Russians are aliens, literal aliens from Andromeda galaxy, trust me, significant portion, by the way, of those zombified freaking animals in the West gonna believe that Russians are aliens. We all are freaking aliens from Andromeda. We came on this planet to occupy you all, right? Oh, goodness me. Okay, I mean, how you can take this kind of stuff seriously, man? Really, all this nonsensical propaganda moves that Western ruling class is doing. And yet again, why they are wasting sources? They already zombified majority in the West, right? They already zombified that majority. They don't really need to do more, right? Because they are dead, brain dead creatures now. They might look like human, move like human, but they are no longer freaking humans, man. They are brain dead, right? And there is a tiny minorities in the Western countries that actually are well informed. They're actually able to think for themselves, right? And if they not being zombified by Western propaganda by now, well, they're not going to be able to zombify them. So for whom Western ruling class is trying to come up with this freaking propaganda BS moves, man? They already zombified majority in their own countries. Anyways, either way, as I already said, I don't give a damn about neither Venezuela, neither Brazil, neither Mexico, by the way, for that matter. Right? Why would I care, man? F them all, right? They are enemies of Russia, and that is that, right? They have no self-respect. So as long as they don't respect themselves, why should I respect them, right? I was expecting that Venezuelan people will never kneel to their white masters, and I was wrong. I was wrong, man. Venezuelan people actually kneel to their white masters. And Donald Trump is their emperor now. Okay, so yeah, fuck it, man. Scumbags. Anyways, let's continue a few more news, sir. And maybe I'm brutally honest, by the way, brutally direct, but it is what it is, right? I don't think anybody is watching my updates for polished nonsense, right? No, you want real talk, and that's a real talk. Also, Russian Air Forces, of course, were conducting long-range strikes throughout the past 24 hours on military and logistical infrastructure of the Kyiv regime, energy infrastructure that is related to military capabilities. And we have quite a few reports on that, so I can give you some of the details of these long-range strikes. In Poltava region, for example, Western-controlled part of Ukraine, temporarily Western-controlled, Russian forces struck 3 industrial facilities in past 12 hours. Fire broke out on those facilities. There was significant damage, which is good, of course. Also, fire broke out on 2 industrial facilities in the Kremenchuk district. Another industrial facility was targeted in the Mirgorod area. On top of that, Tarantul class patrol boat, how you say patrol boat? Patrol. Yeah, patrol boat, which provided security for sea vessels during the transit and at the unloading sites, as well as the fuel tanks in the port of Odessa, was targeted terminal infrastructure, which facilitates the unloading of sea vessels carrying military cargo. For Kyiv regime were targeted and destroyed. Hangars containing Western military equipment and unmanned boat storage facilities were also struck in Ismail port, which is on the Danube, which is Odessa region, but port itself or the city itself, Ismail, is on the Danube River, of course. And well, maritime blockade still in force. Maritime blockade is still in force. Even there are some vessels are attempting every now and then to bypass Russian blockade, and some do actually. I mean, given the certain reports that I read on internet, some boats did manage to, some bulk carriers or whatever, managing to reach Odessa region ports or Nikolaev region ports, but then Russian drones are visiting those vessels, and kibbutz is happening. And when it comes to river ports in Odessa region on the Danube, well, I have reported many times about Russian successful strikes in the Kilia area. This is a Kilia, by the way, city, right, which also has a portal infrastructure here that is almost completely eliminated. There is Ismail. This is Ismail, right, which also has a portal infrastructure on the Danube River. And there is a Reni also. somewhere in the western. That's the rainy, by the way. So, and this one also has portal infrastructure. So this portal infrastructure is being damaged significantly by Russian long-range strikes in the past. And on top of that, of course, Kiev regime still cannot attempt to receive certain volume of weapons and munition through Danube, right? But it is becoming more and more difficult, first and foremost because of these Russian strikes, and secondly because of this drought all over Europe and significant drop of water levels on the river. So therefore, well, Kiev regime might have high hopes that well, they're going to use Danube River as a major logistical line, but yeah, I don't think that will work well for them. They will try. Okay, let them try, man. After all, they can always use smaller boats, right? And transfer, for example, certain goods from a Romanian side of Danube River, and border here, by the way, goes exactly on the Danube, right? Between Odessa region of Russia, temporarily occupied by NATO, and the Romanian border goes exactly on the river. And of course, Romanian Nazis and the fascists can try, and nothing, don't be surprised, by the way, Romania, ally of Nazi Germany, you know, nothing changed there much since then, right? Descendants of those Nazis are in charge right now too. And so, yeah, they can use smaller boats to transfer directly from Romania to Odessa region while crossing the Danube. But of course, that will be logistical nightmare. They're not going to be able to transfer like great volume of weapons and munition this way. So mostly NATO countries, enemies of Russia now, will be focused on the ground crossings, right? To send more weapons to Kiev regime, more munition, more fuel, more everything, right? At the same time, they are forced now to, you know, allow open for Kiev regime their logistical lines so that Ukrainian Nazis will export whatever they were exporting before through the maritime routes, through ports of Mykolaiv region and Odessa region. And you can imagine level of pressure on the logistical lines, either in Romania or in Poland. It's going to be, or Hungary or Slovakia for that matter, right? It's going to be logistical nightmare. It's going to be logistical nightmare, and going to create it will create tensions inside the enemies of Russia in that camp, and also between those NATO member states and the Kiev regime. And this is all good, man. This is all good. Whenever our enemies experiencing some difficulties, it's all good, right? Unfortunately, that enemy still is able to launch a lot of drones and missiles to strike Russian Federation. First and foremost, because I mean, just count how many NATO member states are engaged in this war against Russian people. We are talking about dozens and dozens, including biggest and formally at least strongest NATO member states: US, Turkey, UK, Germany, France. You know. And so all these NATO countries are engaged in the mass production of drones and missiles that are then shipped on the Kiev control territory as a priority shipment and then used against Russia. And it's not just weapons, but intelligence, flight path, targeting data, everything is coming from NATO. So therefore, we are observing constant increase on these long-range attacks on the Russian Federation. Yesterday, there was a record-breaking nighttime attack on Russia, for example, when air defense forces intercepted 822 drones. Overall, more than 1,400 drones were intercepted. Some say more than 2,000, but I count more than 1,400 through the 24-hour period. That's yesterday. Day before yesterday also was a massive attack, right? More than 1,300 drones were launched, at least during their 24-hour period. So in past several days, NATO countries and Kiev regime, they launched a lot of drones that they had in the stockpiles, right, on the Kiev control territory. And maybe that's why past night they were unable to pull off the same scale of long-range attacks on Russia. They were able to launch about 300, 250, 300 drones, and 205 of them were intercepted by Russian air defense systems over there. Astrakhan, Belgorod, Bryansk, Voronezh, Volgograd, Kaluga, Kursk, Rostov regions, Crimea, as well as the waters of the Azov and the Black Sea. And well, you might ask, dear friends, how many of those drones are being produced in the West, right? That are on, I mean, nowadays are practically every 24 hours, 1,000+ drones being launched, right, to strike deep into Russia. And well, I have an answer for you on this question. I have an answer for you on this question. Well, since the beginning of this year alone, since the beginning of 2026, Russian air defense forces have shot down more than 100,000 drones. So you can imagine the scale of this drone production in NATO countries, and you can imagine level of involvement of these NATO countries into in this war against Russia, in this war that Western ruling elites, Western countries are waging on the Russian people. This year alone, more than 100,000 drones were intercepted. Just imagine level of death and casualties and destruction throughout the Russia, especially European part of it, if even 50% of these 100,000 drones did manage to bypass air defenses. It's scary, isn't it? That's the level of involvement, and it's only August, right? Mid-August now. Before end of this year, overall number of drones that were launched against Russian Federation and intercepted, well, might be in somewhere in around 150,000. You know. So that's what Russia is facing. Can you tell me which NATO country would be able to withstand such a pressure when it comes to long-range attacks? US? I don't think so. UK? I don't think so. Germany? No. Which NATO country would be able to withstand such a pressure? None. Literally none. And this is only happening, this extreme level of involvement of the NATO countries in not just weapons productions, long-range weapons production that are used against Russia, but also in direct attacks. All this is only possible because there is no deterrent in the place between Russia and the collective West. And as situation deteriorates in terms of volume of these long-range attacks on Russia, and that's clearly the trajectory, I think we will be closer and close to the point when maybe Russian president, who is hesitant as of now to change his restraint policy, but at some point in the future, as the situation in terms of these long-range attacks deteriorates, maybe he will finally tell Russian militaries and security services to restore deterrent, and that only can be done with the retaliatory strikes. And once that will happen, tens of thousands of drones might start flying towards European NATO member states, and we will see how they will cope with that. We will see. But unfortunately, as long as there is no deterrent in place, well, that's the reality of Russia and Russian society. That thousands, tens of thousands of drones being launched by NATO member states to strike Russia and kill Russian people. And they do kill Russian people, by the way, on daily basis. Unfortunately, there was another tragedy in Belgorod past night as a result of a rocket attack on Belgorod. 6 civilians were killed, and 4 more civilians, including children, 14-year-old child, were wounded, and their local governor, acting governor, Alexander Shuvaev, reported that her medics are providing all necessary assistance to the people. So yet another tragedy, by the way. 6 people lost of their lives in Belgorod alone, in Belgorod region alone, due to these NATO attacks on Russia, and it is NATO attacks on Russia. And well, as I mentioned yesterday during the big community chat, and also I mentioned this during today's first update, well, NATO leadership of NATO member states are so emboldened with the impunity with which they are killing Russian citizens and destroying infrastructure in Russia that they no longer, seems like they no longer exercising cautious approach, right, to highlight level of their involvement. And that's why they greenlighted Sunday Times, for example, to publish the article acknowledging that British drones are used for direct strikes deep into Russian territory. Until now, attitude of the policy of the Western ruling class was to deny basically their involvement, right? But well, now they don't care because they think nothing gonna happen to them anyways, right? So they want to brag about this stuff. They want to brag about killing Russians. As one German journalist, by the way, when Zelensky was in Belgrade, in Serbia, remember what one German so-called journalist asked Zelensky? What West can do more to kill more Russian people? Literally, that was the question. Then that so-called German journalist tried to change his question, but I mean, you know, he already demonstrated the attitude of entire Western ruling class and the Western world towards Russian people. They want to kill us all, man. That's all it is. And this so-called journalist was openly asking Zelensky, what more can Western world do to assist her killing more Russians? And you have articles like this, right? You have articles like this when they are already beginning to brag about their involvement in these attacks on Russia. Okay, by the way, okay. One day, I think Russian president will finally greenlight Russian security services and militarism to restore deterrent with the collective West, and we will see how everybody in the West that cheers now attacks on Russia will feel. We will see. Before I continue, dear community, let me highlight, if I may, that this media project, oh yeah, I can see 77 members are online on YouTube, only 77. Yeah, soon probably there will be only 5 or 10, maybe not even 5 or 10, because YouTube, never gonna show to anybody my videos. Fuck YouTube, therefore, right? And that's why I recommend all of you, dear friends, if you actually like my programs, if you like this real talker, unpolished stuff, join our community on Rumble. For now, I will have a second live streams on Rumble, but step by step, sometime in the future, may I no longer make any updates on YouTube because I have no future. My project has no future on YouTube, right? It's so obvious. So why should I waste time on YouTube then? It's irrational, right, at this point. So therefore, join us on Rumble. Maybe in a week or 2 weeks time, I will move completely my full programs on Rumble, Patreon, Boosty, and on YouTube. Maybe I will just publish some clips here, every now and then, and that's about it, right? So yes, I dropped a link to my Rumble, right? You just click there, my channel opens. If you have account, subscribe. If you don't have account, create one if you can, right? Okay, and in case any member of our community who watches this video right now likes my programs and wants to help and support, well, you can do it through several means. You can use super chat feature during the live streams, like Wayward did. I can see one super chat on Rumble. For example, let me make screenshot of it and I will react after new segment. There was also 2 comments that I received from Mr. X on Boosty. And yeah, Boosty is another way how you can support with donation or subscription to the page. And of course, there is Patreon, by the way, right? My Patreon page. And And yes, if you want to stay in touch, subscribe to my Patreon, because I will publish there literally everything that I make. From today, I'm gonna publish there all the videos, all the links. Right there after this live stream, I will publish link to this live stream, links from YouTube and Rumble channels, and later on I will have at 9 that's final news update for a day on Rumble, and I will publish that video too on Patreon. So if you are Patreon and Boosty subscriber, you would not miss no my programs. By the way, you're gonna have all the links there. And okay, that's being said. Many thanks to everybody. Many thanks to everybody whoever supported my work and continues to support on both platforms. By the way, I can understand. I can understand that these animals that are in charge of YouTube are killing my channel. But throughout these years, by the way, I have received a lot of support from a YouTube community, right? From YouTube community of ours, and I hope when I leave YouTube finally, I hope at least some of you will join our community on Rumble. And I can see the comment here from Better Brain, Better Branian, Kansas. YouTube is the best platform. I don't know how you did it, but your YouTube channel has no advertisement interruptions. All other news programs like this have copious annoying ads, also exploiter X. Well, my channel is not monetized on YouTube, by the way. So because my channel is not monetized, they should not put any ads, any advertising on my channel. But my channel is also in shadow ban, right? On a strict shadow ban. I cannot reach even 1% of community. Out of 37,000, I cannot even reach 1% due to this shadow ban. So YouTube is killing my channel, so fuck YouTube, therefore, right? And right now, Anna dropped a screenshot of donation on PayPal from Natalia or Bald Eagle, Natalia and the Bald Eagle. I will highlight this, of course, after the news segment. Thank you very much, Natalia and the Bald Eagle, for your donation through PayPal. I will return to this topic after the news segment. So, well, I don't think YouTube is our best platform. YouTube is a monopoly. Yes, I will agree on that. But good platform or best platform? No, man, it's a shitty platform. And let's be real here. It's garbage. We just have to use this platform because others are just much smaller. Rumble is nowhere close to YouTube, but nevertheless, I'm gonna be focused on Rumble. I'm considering to publish my videos on YouTube, also Russian alternative, Russian video hosting platform, right? And there may be some members will join my join me on YouTube too, by the way, right? I will work that out. But YouTube is a garbage, man. Let's make no mistake on that, right? Anyways, let's continue with some other news. And there is a lot of topics. Once again, if you want to support, all the links are under this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. And well, let's continue with some other stuff. And the Middle East, of course, does make headlines throughout the world, unsurprisingly. And well, in my previous updates, I mentioned several times that this 60-day so-called ceasefire is about to expire, right? Today is a day when ceasefire was expiring, and Al Arabiya media outlet reports that US and Iran have agreed to extend their 60-day ceasefire. Okay, there was no ceasefire during this 60-day, right? But if they want to call it that, yeah, okay. In this matrix is so broken, by the way, that words no longer have any meaning, isn't it? They call it ceasefire, while during this so-called ceasefire, there was a 2-week unending exchange of fire between Iran and US. Is that what they call ceasefire, really? So United States and Iran have reached an agreement to extend the 60-day ceasefire. Saudi Arabia Sir Al Arabiya television reported, citing sources, information has been received regarding the agreement to extend the 60-day ceasefire between Iran and the United States. The channel's sources stated they also know that their deadline stipulated by the memorandum of the understanding signed by the United States and Iran last June expires today. And so, yeah, they have allegedly extended their ceasefire, but there was no ceasefire in place to begin with. So therefore, what exactly they extended? I don't know. I don't know. Also, dear friends, Wall Street Journal reports that intelligence agencies of Arab countries, GCC countries, I guess, have recorded the preparations by Iran for a large-scale escalation. So on paper or verbally, they might talk about ceasefire, misfire, and whatever, but Iran is preparing for a war, and rightfully so, by the way. They're going to be next phase of the war. I have said it many times before, right? I was the first probably who said that either late autumn or early winter, they're going to be next phase of the war. Now, every second or even all commentators out there in alternative media are saying the same stuff. But anyways, Arab countries recording the preparations of Iran. Sources within their publication claim that Tehran is preparing to expand the war against the United States and Israel. The main goal is to inflict damage on the enemy that would permanently prevent a reoccurrence of attacks similar to last year's 12-day war and their current conflict. And of course, Tehran has to do this. 100%. Iran has to prepare for the next phase of the war and dealt such a damage to its enemies that they will never even think about implementing on Iran policies of these permanent strikes that they do in regards to many other countries, right? Nigeria is one of the key countries in African continent, right? And the Americans are targeting Nigerian territory whenever they like or whenever they feel like that. You know, one day some freaking nobody gonna wake up on some aircraft carrier and says, you know what, I feel like I'm gonna bomb Nigeria today, and they will go and bomb. That's it, man. That's it. I may be simplifying a bit, but you get the essence what I want to say. Iran don't want to be in such position. An only way to avoid that is to dealt a tremendous blow to its enemies. So they are preparing for next phase of the war, which is going to be massacre of U.S. troops and whoever else will invade their Iranian territory, for sure. And because I have said many times in my previous updates, because U.S. militaries are a paper tiger, literally paper tiger, by the way. I mean, this might come as a surprise for some, but it's a paper tiger, especially U.S. ground forces. They don't know what war is, right? All they know is killing civilians left and right. They kill million plus people in Iraq. God knows how many hundreds of thousands of civilians they killed in Afghanistan, right? They turn Libya into hell on earth, killing numerous civilians directly and indirectly. They can do this. U.S. militaries and British militaries and the rest, they can kill civilians, Israeli militaries. And unfortunately, they are good at it, killing innocent civilians. But when it comes to actual war, then you might get killed too. Yeah, U.S. military suck in that, right? And they know it. They know that. Pentagon knows that they have no battle-capable ground forces. You know, in the movies, maybe U.S. Marines and U.S. This and that are so freaking strong, right? One U.S. Marine can go and eliminate 5 battalions of enemy or entire division of enemy, right? Well, in real life, things are a bit different. And because I know U.S. militaries are paper tiger, especially ground forces, because they know it also. Well, I was saying that because Western ruling class and the regimes that they control throughout the West have no reverse gear, no brakes, they will go for nuclear weapons. They will go for nuclear weapons. And whenever I was mentioning nuclear weapons, I was saying it's not going to be Israel that will use nukes against Iran. It's going to be US that will use nukes against Iran, because Israel is going to be wiped out moment they use nukes. US is a different story. Because not because anybody afraid US necessarily, but because US unfortunately has thousands of nukes, right? And the US ruling class, Western ruling class, is reckless enough to go with the nukes against anybody. And so I was saying that because conventional warfare leaves no chances for Western ruling class to succeed in their Middle Eastern chapter of their global strategy, they will push Washington to go for nuclear strikes. Many of you, dear friends, probably were skeptical when I was saying this. Many of you probably were skeptical. I know in the field of alternative media, no one was saying what I was saying. No one was seeing the big picture or reading the big picture in the way I was reading and continue to do so. Exactly the opposite. I mean, many big names in alternative media were saying that no, never, US never going to use nukes. Israel never going to use nukes. No one going to use nukes. If anything, some commentators were saying, yeah, Israel might, but US, no, never. And I was thinking, what the hell, man? It makes no sense. Israel not going to use nukes. Zionists are not that stupid. They know. Israel use nukes. Israel is finished. So that's why globalists, Zionists, and neocons, they will use US as a main tool, right, to deploy nukes. And, well, many people were skeptical of it. Maybe many members of our community were saying, yeah, Levan, you are wrong on that or something. But you know what? I was correct on that. When I'm wrong, I can admit that. But when I think I have stronger reasons to say something repeatedly, then I think I'm spot on. And interestingly enough, by the way, former congresswoman in US, Marjorie Taylor Greene, wrote right on her Twitter X, they are discussing using nuclear weapons on Iran in strategy meetings. She is talking about her White House and the Pentagon, US ruling class. Yes, you read that correctly. It's real. I am not speculating. I know. That's what she says. She's indicating that she has real information from the spot, right? That there is discussions of deploying nuclear weapons against Iran. And yeah, I mean, I will take her NTJ statements as an additional indicator that my reading of the big picture was correct and is correct, right? Unfortunately, but yet again, because globalists, Western ruling class, they have no reverse gear, isn't it, dear friends? They cannot stop. And plus, if you keep in mind that Middle Eastern chapter of their global strategies are extremely important for them to succeed in the global strategy itself, they cannot back down. I don't think Western ruling class will even consider to back down. They will go all the way, right? They will use whatever steps they can take in order to succeed in the Middle Eastern chapter. And what is their main goal is to basically destroy Iran, provoke basically full-scale bloody civil war inside Iran on ethnic and sectarian lines, correct? And then to spread this violence on ethnic and sectarian lines throughout the region, throughout the Middle East, so that they will cut off this region, this very rich region with their crucial resources, natural resources, including energy. They will cut off this region from the global economy for as much as possible and as long as possible, and will ultimately force China, because China will have no other options but to increase its reliance on the Russian energy supplies up to strategically critical level, dangerously critical level, let's say this way. And there are some new members of our community might ask, yeah, but why would the Western ruling class want that? Well, point is that if Western ruling class succeeds in this, then I think their next step will be to use their fifth columns that they have in Russia and China, and they do have a fifth columns in both, right? Very strong fifth columns, by the way. You might asking yourself, well, how come that Russia is not retaliating on these NATO countries that are killing Russian citizens? Guess what? That's the level of influence of the fifth column. That's how powerful Western fifth column is in Russia. They can influence policies of the Kremlin because humanly, logically, intellectually, this policy of restraint makes no freaking sense whatsoever. No matter how hard you will try to justify it, it's unjustifiable. It makes no sense. But the level of influence of Western fifth column in Russia is such that they are influencing policies on the highest freaking level. That's how it is. And if you think about China is different, no, China is not different. Unfortunately, through corruption and through many other things, West has infiltrated China no any less scale than they have infiltrated Russia. So their plan is to then use these fifth columns once China is dependent on Russian energy supplies is dangerously critical. They will use these fifth columns to create tensions between the two, between Moscow and Beijing, and they will force Beijing into a corner of thinking that Moscow is about to turn its back on China, cut energy supplies, do this, do that, which will kill Chinese economy, right? And the Western ruling class will try to force Beijing to go for a military solution to secure closest energy fields militarily. And you guess where closest major energy fields are with China. It so happened that it is Russia. That's what Western ruling class wants to do, man. They want to get rid of Russia and China once and for all, while provoking war between the two. And Middle Eastern chapter is absolutely key for this global strategy that Western elites have. If they lose Middle Eastern chapter, they are not going to be able to succeed in a global strategy, right? So that's why I'm saying they will go all the way. They will go all the way, and if they will think that, conventional warfare not going to be enough to engulf entire Middle East into sectarian and ethnic violence, then, let's deploy nukes. And they will deploy nukes, but be sure they're going to deploy nukes. Even that might not help. Because even though Western ruling class, Western elites are absolutely evil force, I don't think they're going to nuke major Iranian cities with the nukes. I don't think they're going to do Hiroshima and Nagasaki style of bombings of settlements now, cities included. I mean, I don't think they're going to bomb Tehran with the nukes. But what they're going to do is they're going to try to deploy dozens of nukes, probably, right, as a psychological warfare. Because militarily, nukes not going to help West much. Militarily, nukes not going to help them much because Iran has deployed this mosaic defense, right? Iranian troops are spread around this massive country, and each single nuke, if deployed, might only be able to, let's say, neutralize several hundred to maybe about like several thousand Iranian troops max. And therefore, you calculate how many nukes then they have to use to neutralize Iranian armed forces, right? They don't have that many tactical nukes to begin with. They just don't have that many tactical nukes, right? And there is a specifics between strategical weapons and tactical weapons. So due to this mosaic defense, nuclear weapons not going to help Western ruling class big time militarily, but in terms of psychological warfare, This might be, maybe their calculation is that they're going to break their psyche of the Iranian people. Then they're going to break Iranian people psychologically, because there is no defense against nukes, right? The point is, I think, that I think they're not going to break Iranian people, even with the nukes. Even if they will strike Tehran, by the way, they won't be able to break Iranian spirit of Iranian people. I really think Iranians are just too strong. But nevertheless, even though I think as more time goes by, I'm more and more confident that the Western ruling class will lose in the Middle Eastern chapter of their strategy, and in the global strategy too. They will fail to develop their plans. They're going to commit a lot of crimes trying. And deployment of nukes is going to be one of those crimes against the Iranian people and against the humanity. And now, when you have former US lawmakers that have used to have access to classified information, maybe still do, and now and of course they have sources in establishment, in security services, all over the place, right? When they are saying that on the strategy meetings, deployment of nukes are discussed, well, now why is that? And if you were skeptical when I was mentioning this topic, now probably you are not so skeptical. Share your opinion, what you think, dear friends. But logically, I mean, that's the trajectory, clearly, right? That they're going to go for nukes, but most definitely they're going to still lose. I mean Western ruling class. And Iranians are preparing, and one of the ways how Iranians are preparing is not just purely militarily preparations, but also Tehran is sending quite interesting message to all sorts of different tribal groups or ethnic groups that are living in the northern, let's say, Iran, like next to border with Iraq, also on the southern eastern of Iran, on the border with Pakistan. Tehran is sending the message to people there that, you know what, $30,000 bounty on the head of US militaries, dead or wounded, dead or captured. You know what, when US will go for invasion, when Western ruling class will finally greenlight the invasion, I think very many people, by the way, among Baluchis, among Kurds, among other groups, civilians that have a lot of arms on their heads, by the way, they're gonna try, man. They're gonna try their luck and either kill or capture US militaries. It's gonna be freaking hunt. Not just Iranian regular forces and the special forces gonna hunt down these invading elements of enemy, either US troops or troops of Israel. I think Israel might deploy its forces too, by the way. After all, in September, they are planning to mobilize 250,000 reservists. What for? Legit question, isn't it? What for? Are they going to send those troops to fight Iran? They might. You might ask, how Israel going to send its troops, right, into Iran? Well, there is a way, by the way. Who controls Syria now? Who controls Syria? Israeli proxies, isn't it? Israeli and Turkish proxies, okay. And where is the highway now that is used by Western ruling class to ship weapons, munition, terrorist groups, PMCs, manpower, everything into next to border with Iran, into Iraqi Kurdistan? There is a highway to the hell, right? That goes through northern Syria and then northern Iraq. So Israel can send its troops, by the way, directly into Iraqi Kurdistan through ground, through Syria. They just can do it, And maybe they have done it already. and the number of Israeli special forces units are in Iraqi Kurdistan, and maybe somewhere else too on Iraqi territory. Well, might be the case. Either way, I mean, Israel is planning to mobilize 250,000 reservists in September. It's legit to ask question why. So no matter what, man, no matter what, Iran is preparing, Iranians are preparing, and they're gonna give a hell of a fight to invading forces, and they're gonna win. That's how it's gonna be, right? Meanwhile, U.S. militaries are doing not so well, really. Recently, Trump himself, isn't it, personally announced, or who was that? Who made the first announcement that USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier strike group basically going to be replaced by USS George Washington aircraft strike group. And this aircraft carrier, George Washington, with their escorting vessels, are heading towards the Middle East right now as we speak, correct? While losing vessels on the way, right? One Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, suffered some major issues, right? And is somewhere in Japan now. But anyways, you would think that, well, there was some issues, right, with logistics on Abraham Lincoln, issues with the food, issues with everything else, right? Sailors and others on the board were on the brink of breakdown. Some of them were attempting to jump off their freaking aircraft carrier and their end of their miserable lives. And that way, there were reports about internal confrontations that killed at least 7 on the board. SETCOM denies all of it, of course. But anyways, you might think, well, finally, this USS Lincoln is sent back to US, and well, George Washington aircraft carrier will do better. And you know what? Right now, you can see on your screen what those militaries on the board of George Washington aircraft carrier are eating as a food. I mean, maybe you can explain to me what am I looking at right now? I mean, it does not look like food that should be given to sailors of $1 trillion army. And let's keep that in mind. You know, if you are starving, by the way, you will eat grass. And you might say, well, grass is delicious if you are starving. But when you are a member of their $1 trillion army, probably you would expect something more different than dog shit as a food. And that's why I guess so many US militaries are sharing so many freaking videos about conditions on these naval assets. Aircraft carriers, destroyers. Today I saw a video of yet another Arleigh Burke-class destroyer that is being sent off. Goodness me, man. When I saw first time the video, I was thinking, is this vessel from the freaking Second World War or something? You can see video on my Telegram channel if you are subscribed, by the way. Vessel is messed up, man. Even the one look is enough to understand this vessel is in a bad shape, right? God knows when last time this vessel had a freaking proper maintenance done. And that's the new strike group, aircraft strike group that is replacing Abraham Lincoln. And look, man, what $1 trillion army members being given to eat. And they will eat, right? Yet again, you're not going to starve yourself, isn't it? But when you keep in mind, and those American sailors and their engineers and whomever are there on the board, they are thinking, isn't it? $1 trillion. Next year, budget of Pentagon is going to be $1.5 trillion. This year is like 900 billion, something like that, around that. That's officially. You add some black ops budgets, and it will be over $1 trillion for sure. And those sailors, those US militaries are asking questions. These motherfuckers, sorry for my French, elites in the US, ruling class, is taking $1 trillion of taxpayers' money year-on-year terms, and they're gonna further increase this number, and they are giving us this dog shit as a food. Where this money is going, man? Where? Honestly, man, this does not look like food for $1 trillion army. You know? And of course, more and more US militaries are realizing that they've been used by American ruling class as a private military company, not as a defenders of the homeland. They no longer being seen by American elites as a defenders of the homeland, but they are just reusables. Reusables, man. US Army is like a freaking private military company for rich and powerful. That's all it is now, and more people in US military are realizing that, right? That's why experienced officers are leaving US Air Force, experienced officers are leaving US Navy, experienced officers are leaving US Ground Forces, because they don't want to be taking PMC members, right? If they want to be in a PMC, they will actually join PMC and will make like twice more money or 5 times more money that they make while being in army. But they join army to serve the people, and they are realizing that they're just being used as a freaking PMC of rich and powerful, and they don't like it. That's it, man. Who can blame them for that? You know, I can respect when military is joining armed forces, when citizen is joining armed forces to defend their homeland, defend their people. That's a noble cause. But the moment you realize that you're being used as a PMC for rich and powerful, the best decision at that point is probably to leave the army, because yet again, if you want to be a PMC member, you can join the PMC, right? And make a hell of a lot of more money than Pentagon pays you. Anyways, let's continue with some other news, dear friends. Oh, there was a super chats. By the way, let me make screenshots of super chats, and there was super chats on Rumble, and also premium subscription gift card from Nautilus. Super chats are, as of now, from Wayward only. Maybe other members will join Wayward, by the way. Yesterday's fundraising was so bad, man, not a single donation. So I would appreciate any support, by the way, right, throughout the week. So, and you know, this is only income I have, right? I'm not a rich man or something. Unfortunately, I'm not rich. Never was rich. I always work for a living throughout my life, and so I appreciate all the support, by the way, all the support that I get from a community. So I have screenshotted all the super chats, right? So I'm not gonna miss nothing. Yes, I mentioned there was a PayPal. Anna just came, so, and I'll highlight again after the news segment. And so let's continue, dear friends. I was on this topic, right? That several Middle Eastern countries secretly shipping oil through Hormuz Strait, according to reports. Well, good. What can I say, man? It is good that Western ruling class is failing to keep the region, to keep even Persian Gulf as isolated from the global economy as possible, right? And Iran understands what's going on, right? And Iran allows energy, oil tankers, by the way, to move around there, even if some of them are not cooperating with Iranian side. Iran allows these vessels to go, especially if destination of those vessels is China, for example, right? China or other friendly nations with Iran. So no one should think that Iranian militaries are unable to spot these tankers that are moving around. They are spotting everything. By the way, Hormuz Strait is like 20, 30 miles, probably not even that wide. It's, you can, with equipment, you can observe everything that moves there. But nevertheless, it is interesting that oil exporting countries are secretly shipping fossil fuels through the Strait of Hormuz, which is one of the factors holding back energy prices increases. Bloomberg reports, according to the news agency, oil tankers from UAE, Qatar, and the Kuwait have been passing through the Strait with their transponders turned off for the several months now. Yet again, transponders are off or on. It does not really matter because Iranian military literally can see entire freaking strait. They have drones over, and also even from their coastal line with their not even ultra modern equipment, you can monitor everything. So if some vessels, tankers, are passing through Hormuz Strait without Iran's permission, that's because Iran allowed them to do so. And Iran will only allow, I think, tankers to move around there if their destiny is friendly countries, friendly nations, China, for example, or something like that. But either way, this is a good news. Maybe those tankers are actually, paying fees too, right? In ways that aren't being disclosed. Either way, this is good news. Either way, this is good news because, as I said, the Western ruling class in its Middle Eastern chapter plans to cut off this region completely or as much as possible and as long as possible from the global economy. So every news about export of energy from this region is a good news, absolutely good news, right? That indicates failure of the Western ruling class. Now, fortunately, they're gonna go for escalation, man. They're gonna go for big escalation. But as of now, clearly, Western ruling class is losing. This evil force, by the way, right? This evil force that has captured the Western world, first and foremost, and there are a number of other parts on this planet. They are losing now and becoming more and more desperate and therefore more and more dangerous. This is also something to keep in mind. RIA Novosti, meanwhile, reports that Trump ordered the reduction of a scale of US military exercises with South Korea. And of course, these topics that become a topic of discussion all over the MSM and alternative media. Look, Trump is friends with Kim Jong-un of Korea, and that's why he is ordering US militaries to scale down their exercises and stuff. It's all nonsense, right? Let me give you the details first. The White House, Trump has ordered basically a significant reduction of scale of military maneuvers with South Korea. These maneuvers has already started, by the way, several days now at least. Not only this exercise is expensive, with the US footing the bill as usual, but they send their message that completely inappropriate and hostile to a country that, while Donald Trump was a president, was not a threat and behaved respectfully, he wrote on the Truth Social. And yet again, this topic is making some sort of crazy headlines now, while in reality, what is happening is that US needs military assets, right? A lot of military assets are usually used during these exercises, right? And US don't want to spend their hours those weapon systems have on exercises. They want those weapon systems to be battle ready, battle capable, and close to Middle East. That's the reason. Money could be one reason, but it's not about money necessarily. It's about equipment itself because US militaries are exhausted. US military equipment is exhausted, right? US Navy is on a brink. US Air Force is on a brink. US air defenses are just
basically non-existent at this point, almost, right? So Pentagon needs whatever assets they can have that are not requiring major exams, right? Every weapon system, air defense system, or aircraft or whatever, have to undergo major check every several years. But meanwhile, they have to be regular checks every several months of crucial elements of those systems, right? And every weapon system has its lifespan, right? Every flight that aircraft makes brings its lifespan shorter and shorter, makes its life shorter and shorter, because only so much pressure can withstand airframe until major how you say, what is the word, man? Until major works are done to renew their airframe, right, or to restore the capabilities, right? So that's why US will downgrade their scale of military exercises throughout the world now, not just with Korea, but throughout the world, and will try to bring all the capable military assets that they need towards closer to the Middle East. Israel is already become like a major weapons hub, munitions hub, logistical hub for US. That's the reason. But Western propaganda, right? Left side gonna blame Trump. Oh, you see, he's a dictator. He loves Kim Jong-un so much that he's downgrading the scale of exercises. Probably that's the garbage crap propaganda that leftists gonna go in the US. So-called leftists, by the way, they are anything but leftists actually. And right side of file will go to debunk, attempt to debunk that nonsense from left, while in reality, situation is absolutely different. It's all about weapon systems, right? Weapon systems. Anyways, it so happened that exactly at this point, South Korean President Lee Jae-myung has proposed talks with North Korea and formally ending the Korean War, which is technically remained unresolved for over 70 years because they don't have a peace treaty, by the way. They have a ceasefire, basically, right? Along that 37th parallel. And 37th, right? Yeah. And so that divides the peninsula in the two halves. And so this is quite interesting, isn't it? This is quite interesting. This report indicates that not just South Korean political class, but I think political class throughout the US colonies or throughout the Western colonies. The US itself is a colony of Western ruling class. Let's be real here. I know some commentators out there on alternative media are painting picture that US is an empire, right? And all the rest is a colonies. You know what? It might look like that, but U.S. ruling class is not. U.S. elites are not in charge, not a major force. Globalists are major force, and globalists are from where? From main body of globalists are stationed where? Let's say in Europe, right? So U.S. itself is a colony. I don't know why some people missing the point. But U.S. itself is a colony tool in hands of Western ruling class. And when I say Western ruling class, first and foremost, I mean globalists, of course, because they are a major force. These neocons and Zionists and the rest of the scum, it's just additional components of that. But globalists are major force. And globalists are also divided in several groups. Most influential one is, of course, British ruling class and its assets, Second most powerful, we can argue, is either Vatican or French ruling class. I don't know which one between these two. But that's the top three. That's the top three, by the way, when it comes to globalists. US ruling class is not even in top 5. Right? So therefore, I will argue US itself is a freaking colony of the globalists. So therefore, we should not consider all these other countries colonies of the US. These are colonies of the Western ruling class, including South Korea. And these colonies, at least in the global South, in the Middle East too, are beginning to wake up and realize that, well, being in these unhealthy relationships with the Western ruling class is no longer beneficial for them, right? Because they're not being protected. And this colonial status of theirs and lack of sovereignty is actually threat now. Threat. And close ties with their Western colonies of the Western ruling class, US, for example, and others, further increases this threat. And that's why I think there is some awakening in South Korea. Good, man. Talk to Pyongyang. At least make sure that you're not gonna freaking start a war between each other. That would be good for the beginning, right? But this process is unstoppable, I think. This process is unstoppable, even though Japan, for example, is strictly controlled by Anglo-Saxon elites, by globalists, through US, because US is a tool in their hands, of course. Even though Japan is a colony itself, I think there's going to be some awakening in Japan too. To be, man. Because Japanese security is being jeopardized by this colonial status big time. And Japan's security, strategical interest being jeopardized also with the push to militarize. And this push is coming from the West too. Western ruling class is forcing Japan to spend more on weapons because they want to use Japan against China, against Russia too, but mostly against China. And I cannot believe that Japanese intellectuals, right, in Japan don't really understand how dangerous the trajectory is. So this awakening process inevitably will spread around, right, entire world. South Korea, Japan gonna wake up in 3 to 5 years time, hopefully, right? That will be good for them. Maybe we will see some major changes also in the Philippines even, right? Which is used against China in extreme levels, in absolutely extreme levels, right? And if awakening is not happening in the Philippines, they're gonna get smoked, man, on a scales that global South have not seen since the Second World War. I mean, why Filipinos would want this hit? I have no freaking idea, right? Maybe they are suicidal or something. I don't know. But awakening is happening, and this is a good thing. This is good stuff. Also, TASS News Agency is reporting, and of course, we have to talk about Europe, by the way, Europe and the upcoming winter, which might be extremely difficult for Europe in terms of energy security. TASS News Agency reported that Europe's underground gas storage facilities are about 60% full, but nevertheless, this is, and it might sound good, but in reality, this is anti-record for many years now, right? Anti-record. By this time, these storage facilities, underground storage facilities, should be full, ideally up to 90%, 80-90%. Last year, this time, Europe's underground storage facilities, this exact period, in mid-August, were 72% filled. Right? Now only 60%, and this is our average, by the way. Different countries are on a different levels. There are reports that Germany is not even 50%, for example, which is, if true, by the way, it's like scary. It's scary, man. And what Germany gonna do, right? There is, there is not enough LNG on the market. European countries cannot compete with their Asian countries when it comes to price, right? Asians gonna pay more always. They just can't, right? And so Europeans are struggling to compete for an LNG with Asia. Same time, they have a destroyed relationship with Russia. Only Turkish pipeline is operational, and that pipeline only pumps so much gas, right? There is increase now, record level increase on the gas transit through this Russian gas transit through this Turkish Stream pipeline, but into Europe. But it again, it has its limits. That pipeline not going to be enough to fill their freaking storage facilities in Europe, underground storage facilities. So they cannot buy LNG, they cannot receive gas to pipes, enough gas, right? What they gonna do? They're gonna freeze, man. Europe gonna freeze this winter. It's gonna be probably unprecedented level of energy crisis, unprecedented since the Second World War. That's what Western elites did to Europe, man. Right? As time goes by, as numbers are not improving, well, it is becoming more and more scary, man. More and more scary in terms that it's ordinary people, by the way, in Europe, right, that gonna suffer first. People like us, and it is scary, man. Maybe these Western countries are enemies of Russia. Not maybe, they are enemies of Russia, elites of those countries, but I don't consider people of those countries to be our enemies necessarily, right? Even the majority, zombified majority, man. I don't want any harm for them. I don't wish no harm for them. They are hostages, basically, at this point of Western ruling class. And that's what it is, right? I feel sorry for them. If anything, I feel sorry for them. So, yeah, Europe is heading towards major disaster, by the way, this winter, especially if winter is going to be long and severe. And this well might be the case because summer was extremely hot, and well, there is a say, isn't it? If summer is extremely hot, winter most likely will be extremely cold. So if that's how it's gonna go down, then well, Europe is facing some major trouble this winter. But yeah, that's what European elites did, man. While European societies, with the exception of tiny, well-informed minority, did nothing to stop this madness of Brussels and their leadership of EU member states, and this madness continues. This madness continues. So, for example, Die Welt, German media outlet, isn't it, reports that European Union is preparing its largest sanctions package against Russia since 2022. Instead of de-escalating, right? Instead of de-escalating and creating some grounds to ease the pressure, right, on Europe itself, so that they will receive some assistance from Russia. No, man, these psychopaths that are in charge of EU, they are looking into ways to further escalate, which is truly, at this point, truly suicidal. Kaja Kallas and other Russophobes are leading this charge. And look what Kaja Kallas says, by the way, this is quote: "For autumn, I am putting forward the most far-reaching sanctions listing since the start of the war. Once adopted, they would immediately rise the total number of sanctioned Russian individuals, companies, and organizations by third. The pressure must keep growing until Moscow ends its war," she's saying. And well, if you want to end the war, stop financing Ukrainian Nazis and the fascists to begin with, right? And secondly, what is wrong with these people, man? Dear community, what the hell is wrong with these psychos, man, that are in charge in Europe? Or what is wrong with the globalists, generally speaking? Why they being so inadequate. They're going to increase by third overall number of sanctions, I guess, on Russia. We already are under the 30,000 sanctions or 40,000. No one counts no more, right? Here in Russia, no one counts. No one freaking cares. It's 30,000 or 45,000 or whatever the number is. And I would not say those sanctions don't create troubles, by the way, right? And inconveniences. Oh, they do. They do create inconveniences. They do create some trouble for us, for sure. But they're not going to break spirit of Russian people, of course, and they definitely are not going to break Russian economy. You know, and why are they doing this? Can anybody explain? Don't they have anything else to do? These people in Europe. I don't know. Would not be surprised. Would not be surprised if one day they will just sanction all of us, all 145 million of us, right? All citizens of Russia at once, and maybe then they will take some break from these sanctions. But I mean, this is a clinical situation, right? In Europe, man. We might laugh as much as we want, but if you are living in Europe, this should be scary, man. Honestly, that your country, your union, this European Union, is led by literally mentally ill elements, like Kaya Kallas, like Ursula Bursula, and the rest of the garbage, right? And like globalists, basically, because what globalists are mentally ill creatures, right? And if Europe is facing freezing this winter, China, according to Foreign Affairs, are facing overproduction. And in some ways, this is true. In some ways, this is actually true. China's trade surplus in 2025 is projected to reach a record 1.2, 2026, I guess, record $1.2 trillion. Country already accounts for approximately 30% of global industrial production, and this figure could reach 45% by 2030. The problem of overproduction is particularly evidenced in the automotive industry. Production capacity allows for the manufacturing of up to 25 million electric vehicles, for example, and the hybrids per year, while demand is only around 12 million. Total production capacity of Chinese automotive industry is approximately 55 million vehicles per year. And well, what can I say, man? It's not just car manufacturing, but in many, many other fields, Chinese are producing most of the stuff, right? More than the rest of the world combined, actually, or close to that. And of course, this extreme dependence of economy and on exports has its own flaws, right? Its risks. But we should also keep in mind the Chinese economy itself. I mean, Chinese market itself is tremendous, 1.5 billion domestic market. And this domestic market always can serve as a safety cushion for the last several years, for the last at least 3 to 5 years, by the way. Chinese, I mean, Beijing was actually kind of cooling down domestic consumption, and maybe reasoning for that exactly is that longer they will cool down domestic consumption, let's say, of all sorts of goods, from EVs to whatever, then if need be, the bigger their impact or effect as a safety cushion of this domestic market will be for the economy, right? If there is a major, let's say, global crisis, economical crisis, and there are tremendous downfall of the demand on the world scale. Maybe these are linked, but either way, man, all economies have its specifics, right? That's how world works. So I guess Beijing already knows what to do, when and how, once economy will face this tremendous overproduction in not just one or two fields, but in all the rest fields. They will come up with something. They will come up with something, or at least they are producing, by the way. At least they have a real economy, unlike Europe, where the industrialization is only accelerating, and even unlike US, where real economy is shrinking. Actually, there might be this IT bubble boom, AI bubble boom, and stuff like that, but this is not a real economy. Real economy is when you're actually producing something. And in US, there is decline throughout the industries, right? From agriculture to steel production, there's freaking decline. That's what it is. And that's about it. That's about it, by the way, for this news segment. I hope you liked it. I hope it was informative and interesting. And now we can have a community chat. Let's go for a community chat, friends. If you like the video, please click that like button. Maybe it will help, by the way. I mean, maybe, right? On both, on YouTube and Rumble, friends. Let's help me promote my Rumble channel, please. You know what? I will drop link to my Rumble again. If you have account, please subscribe. And if you don't have account on Rumble, maybe you will make account, because all the channels have their, all their alternative media projects have channels on Rumble. All of them. I mean, most of them, at least, right? So if you can, please create their account and subscribe to alternative media, my channel included. And now let's go for the community chat. As I said, Mr. X later yesterday and early this morning sent 2 donations through 158 ruble donations through Boosty. 158 rubles is like $2 donations. And the 2 comments, by the way, with these donations. Let me highlight this comment. First one: what will Putin do when 10,000 drones are launched against Russia in a single day, and there is mass casualties of civilians? Is he going to invite Kushner and Witkov for 8th talk? Yeah, I mean, Mr. X, thank you very much for your question, for your donations through Boosty. And the question, I don't know. I don't know what Putin gonna do. I just simply don't. It's not just you, of course, that are asking this type of question, but everybody. At this point, probably vast majority of people who pays any attention to developments are asking the same. What is their major plan that Putin has, right? What he wants to achieve with the restraint policy, or with these contacts with Washington, and there's many more questions on top of that, and we just don't know the answers. We just don't know. We don't know, but this restraint policy of Russian president definitely frustrates everybody, man, because no one understands what the hell is going on, man. It's hard to explain logic. It's I mean, you can always come up with any sorts of explanations, or you can make up basically explanation, right? It might be even logical in some sense, but if we're being real, this restraint policy makes no sense. It just makes no sense, especially now. Early in 2020 to 2023, when West step by step was getting engaged more and more into this war, early years in this war, one might argue that, well, restraint policy is implemented because someone has to be adult in the room, right? And the Russian leadership is attempting to avoid a wider confrontation with this restraint. But now it is clear that longer we maintain this restraint policy, higher the risk that eventually we're going to end up exactly in that wider confrontation, because Western ruling class will only continue to escalate. And at some point, they will go so far that even Putin would not be able to, stop Russian, maintain, let's say, this restraint, and ignore public pressure and pressure from other groups that are against restraint, that want to restore deterrent with the collective West. Right, so longer this restraint continues, there is a higher probability that eventually we're actually going to end up in a much wider direct confrontation with the collective West countries, first and foremost European NATO member states, than it would be necessary if we would restore deterrent on the very same day this deterrent was ignored by the West. That's what I think. Also, another comment: is there anyone in the halls of power in the Kremlin who has the guts to say the truth about US, NATO, drone strikes on Russian civilians and their infrastructure? I have sent little evidence so far. I have seen little evidence so far. And yes, I think there is already, not very few, but I think there is nobody in the Putin's inner circle that have guts to say the truth. I don't think there is a single person in the Putin's inner circle that will dare to tell him what is the truth actually is, right? I think Putin is extremely poorly informed because of this fear of his inner circle to tell him some negative stuff. I think Putin is extremely poorly informed nowadays. And this is dangerous on its own, right? Maybe one of the reasons why we still exercise restraint is because he is just too poorly informed about scale of involvement of NATO countries in this war and in this mass killing of the Russian citizens. Because yet again, Putin is not watching my videos, right? Putin is not paying any attention to a day-to-day activity of citizen journalists, especially in alternative media. So only source of information for him is whatever he's being given by his administration in Peking dossier or whatever that is. He reads that, and that's all he knows. So who knows, man, what he's being given, what kind of information, So I think there is not a single brave human being in Putin's inner circle, actually brave, brother. They all are cowards. Everybody in Putin's inner circle is a coward. That's my personal opinion. Thank you very much for sharing, Mr. X, and thank you very much for donations through Boosty. And well, Anna just told me that I drop a link to my Rumble channel on the Rumble chat, My bad. Let me drop a link to my Rumble channel in YouTube chat. And as I said, dear friends, there was also super chats, on Rumble. So let's go for super chats. Let's react to what? Oh, yes. Let me highlight also, of course, this donation from Bald Eagle. Natalia and the Bald Eagle, thank you very much for your $20 donation through PayPal today, during this live stream, actually. And their comment from Natalia is, keep up the good work. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your support and kind words. Thank you. And let's continue with the super chats. Waywarder, thank you very much, Waywarder husband, for your support, for your attention and their super chats with the donations on Rumble. Wayward is commenting, I find it hard to believe Putin keeps tolerating the death of thousands of Russian civilians without at bare minimum restoring deterrence. No other world leader would ever accept this situation. And what can I say, Wayward? I mean, I partially spoke about this matter literally a few minutes ago, and this topic is unavoidable. So one way or another, I am talking about this very specific topic practically on daily basis in my programs, because you cannot avoid it, right? Because all these long range attacks on Russia, all this death toll, all these tragedies are happening because of the lack of deterrent in the place, right? Because we know these attacks are orchestrated by NATO countries, NATO member states. And as I said, man, at this point, in my personal opinion, restraint policy is not just counterproductive, but it's just senseless. It makes no sense whatsoever. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I don't know some important stuff that will impact my reading of the big picture tremendously. Theoretically speaking, could be case because we only know what we know from open sources, and then what our analytical capabilities allow us to do, right, with this information. While of course Putin and others out there in a position of power, they have access to classified information, but our opinions are based on our information, right? Our opinions, our judgment is based on our level of knowledge and our abilities of analytical work. And given that reality, I have to say that I personally find extremely counterproductive, dangerous, and senseless this restraint policy. That's how I see it. Makes no sense, but to continue this policy, but no one is asking me and you, Wayward, isn't it? Looks like we are on the same page on this matter, but yet again, we are not decision makers, and as I said, man, many people out there worldwide, man, are frustrated as you are and as I am, and the majority of our community, I guess, right, with this restraint. And most importantly, dear friends, I mean, what my fear is that with this restraint, we're actually going to end up in a much wider conflict than otherwise we would end up if we restore deterrent with the collective West shortly after they cross the red line. That's what I think, right? So, there were more super chats from Wayward. Oh, I already commented on this. YouTube algorithm was just asking me if the above video is good recommendation. Lol, it was your live stream, Levan. YouTube, just like most, if not all US tech companies, are in bed with their US deep state, and yeah, I mean, it is factual, isn't it, Wayward? It is factual, and when it comes to YouTube, man, it's just upsetting that I cannot even reach people that subscribe to my channel. It's just, upsetting, right? At least once a week, people that are subscribers should see my video in recommendation. At least once a week. Whoever wants to listen or to watch my programs on daily basis, after all, those can search my channel, right? Just you put there Levan Gudadze in search on YouTube, and there you will see my channel. You come in, you see all the updates, all the latest videos that I have. But algorithm at least should show once a week my videos to members of community, to subscribers. But it does not do even that. That's how aggressive this algorithm is, really, towards the channels that are independent and their content of which does not goes hand to hand with their Western propaganda. That's what they do, man. Especially to channels that are from Russia, and I'm from Russia, by the way. In our channel registration, I have indicated there the channel is from Russia. So it is what it is, man. I mean, that's why I have to try harder next week or two to promote Rumble as much as possible, and then just move towards Rumble. I have not made final decision yet, but YouTube is just wasting my nerves too much, man. Because you can imagine how upsetting it is, isn't it? That for the first 2 years, I was able to grow the channel. Then this fascist Israel went on a genocidal spree, right? And of course, I cannot ignore the topic. I knew, man, that I would say what I think about Israel and Israeli actions will be day when my channel gonna end up in shadow ban, strict shadow ban, and that's exactly what happened. YouTube is killing my shadow ban. Who runs the YouTube, by the way? It's an Israeli Zionist, isn't it? It's a Zionists, man. Let's be real here. I would not go into more specifics, but YouTube is controlled as Google and many other platforms out there are controlled by Zionists, literally controlled by Zionists, that are providing services to Western secret services too, but they are suppressing any and all opinions that Zionists don't want to be out there on the platforms. That's how it is, man. So yeah, unfortunate reality. Rumble is not much better, but it's better. Nevertheless, Rumble is better, right, than YouTube. Technically, in technical terms, Rumble is not as aggressive towards creators as YouTube is, believe it or not. Also, we were just commenting, anytime we have an article in the New York Times, Washington Post is coming straight from the US intelligence. They give their so-called journalists in these propaganda outlets there, and I think there is a continuation. Let me check, dear friends. Their marching orders. Yes, that's exactly the truth. I agree with you, Wayward, 100%. That's the reality. There is no true journalist, I think, in MSM left, either in the West, either in Russia, by the way. There is no true journalist left in mainstream media. Only difference between Western MSM and Russian MSM is that Russian propagandists are just better educated. And that's all. Better informed, better educated. And could be, they would be better journalists too if they were working as a journalist. But in MSM, there is no such a thing now as a journalistic work. It's all about propaganda. That's what MSM is. In the West, in Russia, everywhere else, right? If you want actual journalism, you should not look at the MSM. It's all garbage, but yet again, main difference, I will say, between Western MSM, Western so-called journalists, and Russian so-called journalists is that Russian ones are just, like, I think 10 times better educated and informed. I honestly think so, man. Russian, the so-called journalists, know what they are doing, man. They are intellectuals, but they do it anyways. They choose to be propagandists instead of journalists. While in the West, I don't think those so-called journalists are even intellectuals. They are so poorly educated, by the way, that they are making some basic mistakes. So many times I have listened to Western so-called journalists, and they are, I mean, so poorly educated, by the way, that it's difficult to take them seriously, man. I mean, they're just too poorly educated. When someone is talking about geopolitics and has no freaking idea about geography of this planet, I mean, and that's the basics of the basics, right? When you don't know the geography of this planet, then, I mean, for God's sake, why only if you are talking about politics or the geopolitics or geoeconomics? You just don't know, right? You're only gonna come up with talking points that you're being given in that case, right? Because you cannot have your own opinion because you just don't freaking know. And the vast majority, by the way, of these Western so-called political journalists or commentators or whatever are just freaking imbeciles, man. Too poorly educated to be anywhere close to journalists, really. But it is sad. It is sad that MSM is extremely bad, man, on all sides, right? In the West, here in Russia, I guess it's same in China. Difference is on the level of education of this stuff, these propagandists themselves, right? And Russian ones are clearly better educated. They're Russian commentators, political journalists, they know geography at least, right? When they talk about geopolitics, they actually know what they are talking about. In the West, not really, man. Remember, after all, I mean, that was legendary, man. That was legendary. Remember, there was a person, press spokesman of the Biden. She was, goodness me, I can't remember the name. There was a female press secretary of Biden. She was asked about Belarus once. And you know what she says? That if something along the lines that if Belarus will not behave, US will send its fleet towards the coast of Belarus and will kind of intimidate or bring them to the senses. And that's the level, man. That's the level of education and the knowledge in the West, right? When it comes to media, when it comes to public relations, and so on. That person who was a press secretary at the time, Jen Psaki or something like that. I remember Jen Psaki. So when that's the level of education of those people, when even press secretary of the president of US had no freaking idea that Belarus is a landlocked country, has no freaking coastline, then what are we talking about? You know. So also thank you very much, Nautilus, for your premium subscription gift card on Rumble. Every such a subscription is a subscription gift card is a $5 donation. So thank you very much, Nautilus, for your support. And Wayward is also commenting the main reason why all these Zionists and the war criminals in the West keep killing with impunity is because no one in the world has stood up to them. They play crazy, but are truly cowards. Yes, I agree with you, Wayward. I agree with you. Unless moment we challenged this Western so-called elites and including Zionists, by the way, moment we challenge them, we as a humanity, probably we will start achieving some results. But for now, you know, They are acting crazy. They are extremely emboldened. These Western so-called elites, including Zionists, they feel like they can do literally anything against humanity with total impunity. And why wouldn't they think like that when that's exactly what they do? While we, humanity, is in a defensive mode, kind of, right? And are afraid to challenge those genocidal maniacs, basically. Of course, personally, me and you, I mean, we have very little power, if any, to challenge Western ruling class. But well, we as a society should be able, right, to put enough pressure on our political leadership to stand up to this criminal Western ruling class, man. But we are failing, man. We are, as a societies in different parts of the world, we are failing in that. Unfortunately, we are just too divided. We as a society, as a civilization, is just too freaking divided, right? And that's exactly what Western ruling class wants: divide and conquer, right? Create the reasons, create the more and more lines of division in the societies. Look what they did to West, man. People are now divided in the West on lines of like how many genders are out there. I mean, goodness me. So how you gonna unify the society when there is so many lines of division there that are usually artificially created? You know. Thank you very much, Waywarder, once again. And Nautilus, thank you very much for your premium subscription gift card. And there was also more super chats, dear friends. According to Mark Sloboda, Putin is simply being pragmatic. Unfortunately, he has become an apologist for Putin. As you said, Levan, it makes no rational sense to keep allowing attacks on Russia. And well, there is some. I think there is some logical explanation why some political commentators in the field of alternative media being seen as a Putin apologists, sort of, or why they are attempting to come up with justifications of this restraint policy of the Putin. It's risky, man. What I am doing, it's risky. Let's be real. Putin is extremely popular figure, not just in Russia, but outside of Russia too. I mean, probably one of the most, if not the most popular politician still to this moment. And when you become critical of this one of the most or most popular politician, well, are you gonna lose? You are moving into controversial space, let's say, right? And you're gonna lose support on the people. You are out of line of mainstream in alternative media at that point, right? Majority of commentators in alternative media prefers to stay in the mainstream because it's less risky. There is little risk there. Once you go, once you step away from that mainstream lines, yeah, you are on a risky territory, and people don't want to take those risks, man. And I am just different. I'm just freaking different, man. I was never that person that stays in line. Never in my life. I don't take no freaking orders from nobody. And I'm always gonna say what I think. That's how I grew up, man. That's what my character is, and that's who am I, right? If I believe in something, I will say it, no matter how controversial it is or how unpopular. And that's what is happening. Many commentators in alternative media, they are afraid to take risks, right? Because it's a dangerous territory, really. Not dangerous in terms of some physical assault gonna happen to you or something, but dangerous territory in terms of this alternative media field itself and their attitude, right? That or your position, you might lose support, subscribers, and so on. I mean, why these people are aggressive to each other? I can see now there is some aggressive rhetoric in the chat, and please end that right now, or I will have to. I mean, only few people are watching my stream. Don't make me block you guys, right? Please, let's have a communication in a civilian manner. Am I clear? What the hell, man? And so, yes, that's what it is, Wayward, I think, right? There is a mainstream in alternative media also. Safe lines. That if you follow those safe lines, you're gonna do just fine. But if you're gonna cross that line, then you are in uncharted territory. You are risking. And there not that many people are willing to risk, man. That's what is happening with Mark Sloboda. And there is nothing pragmatic in actions of Putin, by the way. Literally nothing. I mean, yet again, you can justify whatever you want. After all, there are people that are justifying Israeli crimes committed against humanity in Gaza, right? There are many people that are justifying that. Absolutely unjustifiable. So therefore, always, there are going to be always topics when people are attempting to come up with explanations of something that makes no sense, but reasoning why they are doing it, man. That's the question. And I think her main reason is that they're afraid to move away from mainstream in alternative media, mainstream lies. Thank you for sharing. And let me continue, dear friends. There was a right now donation. There was a donation on a PayPal, dear friends. Right now, let me highlight, if I may. Let me highlight, if I may. Thank you very much, Patrick, for your $20 donation through Super Chat. Through PayPal. And the comment from Patrick is, good morning, Levan. You and your family stay safe. Thank you very much, Patrick, for your support and the kind words, sir. Thank you. And let's continue, dear friends, our conversation. There are more super chats. Instead of making, also from Wayward super chat, dear friends, instead of making a deal with the devil, Al-Jolani, Putin could have helped the Syrian opposition overthrow this extremist head chopper. Putin does not know how their empire operates, and well, when it comes to Syria, that's an extremely complex issue, isn't it? That's the extremely complex issue. I think Putin went into Syria. I mean, real reasons why Russia get involved in Syrian affairs is very, very different than official. And I'm not ready right now to go into details on that, but one day, I might prepare myself you cannot remember all the data instantly, right? This is a very complex topic, and I would have to spend some time to have to refresh my memory on the matter, but real reasons why we went into Syria is much different than what officially was claimed, and of course it is sad to see. It is sad to see that Giuliani, this head chopper, as you said, Wayward is being treated as a decent human being. It's just embarrassing, shocking, but yeah, geopolitics is dirty, 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 dirty stuff, man. Right? It's embarrassing. To me personally, it is embarrassing, man, that this Damascus regime is being treated as something legal and something normal when it's not. It's just not, man. These are freaking ISIS and Al Qaeda terrorists that killed tens of thousands of innocent people, hundreds of thousands of innocent people. Who counted, man? They destroyed Syria, right? They've been used by Israeli secret services, US secret services, Turkish secret services, British secret services to kill hundreds of thousands of Syrian people and to destroy this secular republic. People not even know in the West that Syria was a secular republic for decades and decades and decades, and there were no sectarian violence in the country, ethnic violence. Many ethnicities and many religious groups were living in peace, man. And there is one of the oldest Christian sites in Syria, by the way, that will kept well preserved and protected in past decades. Now, when these terrorists are in charge, well, they already tried to eliminate Christian sites during the Civil War, right? And they did actually destroy many sites. They will continue to do so. But I mean, anyways, man, it's embarrassing, as you highlighted. It is embarrassing that these mass murderers being treated as a normal human beings, man, including by Russian leadership. Embarrassing. It is what it is. Well, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing, Wayward. And let me check. Anna told me there was a super chats. Oh, there was another super chat. There was another super chatter. Let me highlight this also. And I think that's about it for today's news program and the community chatter. I think we had a good community chat also, isn't it? Hopefully you like the news segment, and the community chat also was interesting. Thank you, Wayward, for nice conversation, and many thanks to all the members of our community for time and support, of course. And this is the super chat also from Wayward. Thank you, Wayward, again. And comment is, I hear that argument when it comes to Trump as well. I don't buy it. Putin has eyes and ears. He can watch how hundreds of Russian civilians are being killed so far this year. Yes, I mean, as I said, it cannot be justified. To me personally, restraint policy is counterproductive, dangerous, and makes no sense. I mean, of course, anybody can come up with whatever justifications they want, or anybody can come up and try to make sense of this restraint policy. Some of those people might even have some good arguments, maybe, or logic at least behind their arguments. But I personally share my personal opinion, and I think it's counterproductive and dangerous. Makes no sense, right? But yet again, I mean, there is mainstream lines, right? Mainstream positions, mainstream takes in all fields of life, right? It's not just MSM, not just alternative media, but all fields of life. And if you step away from this mainstream, you are in uncharted territory. And me and you looks like we don't have right to share our opinion as we think it honestly, but there are many people that don't feel comfortable to end up in this uncharted territory, to step away from the mainstream lines. And yeah, you know what? It's individual, isn't it? Everyone have to decide for themselves. I mean, what can I say? Scooby is also commenting another super chatter. Thank you, Scooby, for your super chatter and the donation. Scooby is commenting around the world, sex and the gender have a different meaning. Dictionary will help her. Well, you are saying that gender is some social contract or something. I don't know. In the West, yeah, you can have 1,500 takes on the matter. Honestly, Scooby, there is subjects on which I'm not even willing to engage in a conversation. There is a man, woman, period. Call it a gender, call it a sex, call it whatever you want. There is a man, woman, period. That's it. Nothing. There is nothing else there, right? In the Western, oh, they can go and have 100 genders if they want to. Like they can change gender every day, but we consider that to be insanity, right? And gender translates in Russian as a pole. There is a, and pole means like there is два пола, two genders, right? Male, female, period. There is nothing else. In English dictionary, you might have 1,500 explanations. I don't care, honestly, man, right? Because I know like BBC had some study several years ago. They come up with 100 and something genders. And you want to tell me that English dictionary has meaning nowadays? No, man. And I'm translating from Russian. There is a два пола, two genders, period. There was nothing else there. And I don't care what other people think about this, man. I care about science more, and science says exactly that. There is two genders. That's it. I mean, Yiddish is commenting 132 genders and growing. Yes, exactly. I mean, come on, man. We cannot be serious about this. And that I'm a bit surprised, Scooby, to hear this, that you are kind of in support of that idea that gender is a social contract. It's not, man. It's just not. It's just not, right? It does not matter what these propagandists in the West will put in Oxford Dictionary, right? Who cares? We have common sense, right? And there is a science also. If they put in Oxford Dictionary that, let's say, Luna, our moon, is, I don't know, no longer moon, but it means neutron star. We have to believe that our moon now is a neutron star or something like that. No. Anyways, I'm not willing to be engaged in this talks, man. Okay. Scooby is also commenting. Thank you, Scooby, again. Use the word sex if you want to refer to male and female, then that's the English. Culture, society, gender. Yes, but gender is a pole, right? Yeah, это в русском. Есть два пола, мужчина, женщина. That's it, man. That's what I'm saying. But I mean, two sex, gender is just, that's how I talk. I think members of our community do understand what I mean when I say it, right? So thank you for sharing, Scooby. Maybe in the West, that's the way now people are trying to indicate that they are talking about male and female. They're using sex. Yes, you can use that word too, but here in Russia we use gender. we use literally gender. I mean, Pole word, Russian word Pole, translates as a gender, not as a sex. Or it could be translated as a sex too, maybe, but it's gender, right? Direct translation is a gender. And yeah, that's how it is. And I never pretend to be like profi in English language. Either way, thank you for explaining that. But I think our community, there is no discussion in our community how many genders are out there, right? Or how many sexes. There are men and women. That's it, period, right? There's nothing else in between uh, or elsewhere. Okay, dear friends, we had, I think, good conversation, good chat, isn't it? Many thanks to all of you, dear friends, for your time and attention. Once again, if I may, I will drop a link to my Rumble channel in the YouTube chat. If you have a minute, uh, subscribe if you can. Ah, there was more super chats. Another one. Okay, just give me a sec, dear friends. Okay, there was another super chat from Wayward. Let me highlight, dear friends, this one too. Sometimes, I might end the live stream, and exactly at that moment, super chat may come, and I might not be able to react on it. But now one is spotted there. The super chat, and let's react. Wayward, thank you very much for your super chat. Another super chat and another dollar donation. And Wayward is commenting the web in the West. You get cancelled and fired from your job if you refuse to acknowledge a person's mental illness. When someone says they want to call them and you refuse, you are in trouble. I mean, yes, that's insanity, isn't it, Wayward? That's insanity, man. Those people need help. I'm not laughing at those people. I feel sorry for those people. I mean, they want to be called they and them. They who they, who them. I mean, what the hell is going on in their brains? Psychiatrists have to work with these people, but unfortunately, this mental illness is being normalized in the West. So therefore, if psychiatrists or psychologists will even try to help those people, they're going to end up in trouble, as you rightfully pointed out, right? And that's insane. I think that's just insane, man. We should not normalize mental illness. We should not make it normal, right? We should acknowledge that this is normal, this is not normal, and whatever is not normal means we have to help that particular human being, right? To deal with their psychological issues, psychiatric issues, and to live the normal life. That's how good society should operate. But in the West, things are wild, man. I mean, can you imagine someone is telling me user they them to refer me? Otherwise, I'm gonna call the police. If it's a man, by the way, I will smash his freaking face straight away. Just because, right? Maybe that will help her. If it's a woman, I would not even talk, man. I will have to ignore, man, because I'm not a psychiatrist. For God's sake, I can't help. Thank you for sharing, Wayward. And yeah, I guess on this page we also are on this matter. We also are on the same page. I mean, we welcome normalcy, but there are people that being. Question is why this propaganda is being pushed on the public, dear friends? It's a legit question, isn't it? Why this all crazy propaganda is being pushed on the people in the West, especially on the young generation? It's intentional, isn't it? They are poisoning the mindset of the people in the Western world absolutely intentionally, right? They are destroying Western societies, Western states, man, from within, right? If your countries were infiltrated by enemy, what would the enemy do? Probably exactly what our current leadership of or current elites of the West are doing. Maybe not, maybe even not, because that's just too brutal. They are poisoning young generations, and young generations are destroying their lives even before their life actually began, right? They are young people and they are chemically castrating themselves. They are younger women and are doing some freaking operations on themselves, right? To change their gender, their sex, as Scooby says. And those people are destroying their lives forever. What the hell, man? What Western elites are doing to Western societies? It's not just disturbing, but you can only feel sorry for the societies in the West, right? When you think about all that stuff, man. Lives of how many thousands of young people they destroy, those Western elites. Criminals, man. And there was another super chat from another super chat from Scooby. The issue is thank you, Scooby, for another super chat and donation. And Scooby is commenting, the issue is not their multiple genders, is stupid or not. It's that their gender refers to social contracts in addition to sex. This is just a simple semantics. Yeah, I get that, Scooby. I get that. My knowledge of English is not that good, right? And therefore, to me personally, gender only associates with the pole, with literally gender, male, female. That's it, right? That's how I learned the English. But I know that in the Western, that's the explanation that gender is a social construct, right? So, yeah, if you can use sex, then in that case, yeah, I get the point, but I just don't understand this, and that's all really. I don't know what else gender can be. I mean, I just don't understand this social construct. That's what I'm saying. And that's been said, dear friends. But thank you, Scooby, for explaining, for sharing. And dear friends, this is it for now. This is it for now. Many thanks to all of you for your time and attention. Have a wonderful day. And just a little reminder that at 9 p.m. this evening, I will launch a final live stream on Rumble channel only, dear friends. So whatever news, whatever updates we're going to have, we have in past 2-3 hours, and we will have in next 3 hours. Of course, I will prepare all that for that program on Rumble. I hope you will join if you are around. Let's see if this evening live stream on Rumble will work to further develop the channel there. Good. If not, at least I will have the answer, right? So I'm gonna check this week. I'm gonna try to make at least several live streams in the evening this week. Let's see what is going to be results of that. Thank you all, dear friends. Have a wonderful day, and take care. And many thanks to everybody, of course, for attention and support. Thank you.